Hi, this is Ivan Lima, and this is my final project for CSCIE63 Big Data Analytics. My topic is exchanging data between relational databases and HDFS. The agenda for this presentation will be an overview on RDBMS, an overview on HDFS, why you should exchange data, an overview on Scoop, which is the tool that we're going to be using to exchange data between those two different systems. We're also going to show an import demo, an export demo, some of the common errors found during this process, and how to troubleshoot them. So a little overview on RDBMS. I think the main points here to point is 1. Create indexes for quicker data retrieval. Another one is sharing a common column in 2 or more tables, primary key and foreign key, and in all of those, as you can see. There are also many other items that are not in here, as I put only the, I believe to be the main ones. But there's one of them that I really would like to talk about, which is the last one. Relational databases are here to stay, at least for a good while. The reason I put that in there is because there is a misconception that a lot of people, even technologists, say that SQL will die. Well, I believe that SQL will die. I don't know when, but what I believe is that it will take a little while, or actually a very good while. And the reason is due to the type of language used. It's an easy type of language to learn and use, which in the case is SQL. There's also too much legacy code based on SQL out there that to transform them to whatever we want, it won't be that easy of a thing. So SQL, rather than say that it's dying, I believe the correct word should be SQL or RDBMS databases. They are great to integrate with whatever new is coming. And one of the new things that came just a few years back is HDFS. And they can integrate really well together. Here are some of the main overview. Or some of the basic points of HDFS. I like to point, for example, processing logic close to the data rather than the data close to the processing logic, which is the inverse of RDBMS. Another thing is scalability. It's huge, and that's probably one of the main features and what surpass or what really overcome and shine in front of RDBMS is this, the scalability, as we learned during the semester. Now, why do we integrate HDFS and RDBMS? So I put the first point there to be RDBMS data sources. What do I mean by that is that we know HDFS can simply store any type of data. It could be structured or unstructured type of data. And RDBMS has a structured type of data. That means that any data you have in RDBMS can also be in HDFS. And that brings me to the next 2 points: integrating HDFS with data warehouses and storing archived data on HDFS. How do they play together? Well, the truth is, data warehouses are well known for this huge amount of data that it should have. It's probably history data. It's just that type of data that sometimes is not accessed all the time or used for reporting purposes, which is just huge, right? And since HDMS can, in fact, as we talked before, is very scalable. It's a great place for data warehousing. And as a side note, or bringing to the third point, it's where you can actually store everything you want, since nowadays storage is cheap, and then you can use RDBMS to pick up parts of that data, put back in RDBMS, and analyze whatever data you want. So you just put everything in there in HDFS and bring whatever you want for a specific time into RDBMS. Now, some overview of Scoop. Okay, so it is designed to transfer data between HDFS and RDBMS, both ways. It also transforms data in Hadoop with MapReduce or Hive. So you can actually use any of those techniques when you are sending the command in Scoop to transfer the data. You want it in Hive or in the file system. It's easy to do both ways. It uses a connector-based architecture, which means really that it doesn't really matter what type of database you have out there, as long as you have a connector defined. You can use that database. And if tomorrow something new comes and that new thing is really cool, you don't really have to be like, oh, is Scoop gonna work or not? As long as you have the connector, you just create a new connector, or whoever needs it, or the Scoop developers, and you're good to go. You can use that, and it's you can actually choose what to transfer. So let's say you have this table with millions and millions of rows, and with a bunch of columns. If you want to transfer only 5, 6, 7 different columns and only a portion of those of the number of rows, you can do that by just sending a SQL in the Scoop command. So it's very easy to use, and it can do it's very flexible. That's the word I want to say here. Now let's go for some demo, right? First thing before we do the demo is to configure. I'm using Quick VM that has Cloudera and had already Hadoop installed, and even Scoop. And to be able to use Scoop, you're gonna have to have that installed there, right? And the way you do that, let me actually come back here to my let me do some clearing here so it gets better here. You're gonna have to to send that command just to see if you already have a Scoop or not. And once you do that, that's what you see, right? It's telling me that I have 1.4.5 when that was compiled and all that information. So if you see something like this, that means that you have that in your machine. But what if you don't have it? These are the commands or the things that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to, first of all, download, right? I believe there's actually a newer version on 1.4.6, okay? And that's something that you'd have to search, and unzip that file and set up the environment and all of that. So you see all that information right here. Okay, once you do that, you should be almost ready to go, because you still have to decide which RDBMS you are using. In my case, I'm using SQL Server, a SQL Server database. So I need to find the connector for SQL Server, okay? And I also issue those commands so I could organize my file. You can put whatever you want and do whatever you want with the download. But this is the link where I got the connector. And this is, when I click on that link, this is what I see, right? I see the older version 4.0 and the 4.1. I'm picking up this one that's highlighted in blue. And this one is for any machine that is not Windows. Okay, so this one, if it would be Windows, I would have to download this one. But in my case, I'm just doing this one, and you have to decide what is your case really. So once I download that, and I extract it and I put that in whatever folder I want it, it's a good thing to kind of check and see what type of drivers, what jars it comes with it. And I see those three. This is the oldest one. This one is if you have Java 5, 6, or 7. So I would actually say only if you really have Java 5, because for 6 or 7, those two, they perform well. They have some better classes that you can use it. It's still your choice, right? I'm actually using this one. This is the most used nowadays. But you can also use this one. It's an improved version. I used both just to see what was the difference. I end up at the end. I just end up with this one here because it was already there. But I can discuss a little bit what difference I found when I used this one over this one. Okay, so next step is actually transfer whatever jar you're going to use to this folder. Okay, so if I come back here, let me come back here. So if I go to ls usr lib scoop. So that's it shows here exactly what I'm using, what's going to be using to do my commands. Okay, and once you have that in there, then you're pretty much ready to start rolling. Let me come back here and see what else was done here. Okay, one more thing is, of course, I should have probably pointed it out, is let's check what Java we have. Like I said, if you have Java 5, then you would most likely not be able to use this one. Okay, we have 7, so we are good to go here. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about these commands here. Okay, so as I said, I'm gonna be using SQL Server. Okay, this first command, scoop list table, it's not really needed, but it's a good way to see what tables you have out there and what table you want to move, right? So if I come here to my SQL Server, okay, let me get out of here. I don't need this. Okay, so this is the database I'm using on that server, Hadoop. This is I only have this table, and I'm getting this data out of this website in here. It has around 220,000 records of aquaculture. It's about 25 mega of data. So, and I actually have this in here. If I run this count on that specific table, I see, this is the number of rows, and here's a sample of what it is. I don't really think the data matters here too much. But I really got a big set, so we could kind of measure, see how fast things goes and all that, right? Here I'm only selecting 1,000, but as you could see before, there's like 220,000 or something like this of records. Okay, so when I run that command, I'm expecting, since I only have this table, I'm expecting to see the name of this table on my command line. So let me go there. Okay. Should have that in here somehow. Okay, so this is the command: list tables, connect, JDBC, SQL Server. This is telling what JDBC I'm using for what type of database. So this is set in there, and this is the server that I'm using. Okay, this is part of a command minus username, double minus username, and then the username. And this minus P, you could use minus P minus capital P, or you could use minus password and put the password. For this purpose here, I'm using minus P, not because of the data I have there or anything, because my password is actually password, but it's because of good practice to use minus capital P, just because when you do minus capital P, it's just going to prompt you for the password. So when I do that, it's going to prompt me. I'm going to go there, and it's going to do some check on my table, and there you go. It found aquaculture. I had some issues at first here because my table was in a different schema, and every time I would run this SQL, it just not return anything. And even before that, I was trying to import data, but it was just not working. I couldn't know why, up until the point that I found out that it was because that table wasn't there. And digging a little bit more, I could find that the table was there, but it was in a different schema, and that was the reason I couldn't see. You're gonna see that sometimes it's kind of hard. The script doesn't really tell you what is the problem. Okay, so we're gonna discuss later on how to kind of have a better idea on what type of errors is coming and how to fix them. But this first command it's good just because of that, because you know exactly what is in there, and now you can start using, since it sees that table in there, you can start using to import the table, do whatever you want with it. All right, let's come back here and see the next command. So is the import. Okay, it's pretty much the same with these differences, right? I mean, now you have to set the table name. You also have to specify, you know, how many partitions. Oh, what is that? You want to put in here. This is the -m, and you know what is the target in your HDFS system. Okay, so let's go back there again. Let me get this a little bit bigger. Okay, so I should have this query. Okay, so I have this in here. Let's talk about a little bit again. So it's an import. I'm trying to do an import, right? As we can see here, I'm trying to. This is my connection string. Here you see now instead of putting -p, I put this one. It doesn't matter. I could just put -p here again, and I'm telling what is the database. The table is the same as I saw in here, aquaculture, and -m. It's again the partition, right? If I leave -2, it's just I'm gonna have two different files on my Hadoop or on my HDFS. If I put 10, I'm gonna have 10. If I put 1, I'm gonna have 1. So you choose whatever you want to do, right? And the target is this one, right? Like this aquaculture should not be there. If it is, oh, I removed it before, so great. So if I actually come here, if it isn't there, then it's just gonna fail. And again, it's COOP. It's pretty hard in telling you what is the problem. So, oh, I actually see aquaculture in there. So I guess I should probably. Well, let's run with it so you can see what happens. COOP is terrible in telling you what to do, really, when it comes to that. But if I try this here right now, it should fail because of that directory. Alright, it failed and it's telling me that file already exists exception, all that. So let me actually remove it. Let me make sure I remove that directory in my Hadoop system. So if I'm spelling it right, because I actually thought aquaculture, is that right? Okay, I think it is. Let's remove that and then let's double check, make sure it's not there. Okay. Let me just do -ls. Okay, I don't find it there. So let's run that command again. We ready? Okay, there we go. So it will take a little while until it completes. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm just gonna put a pause on the video and come back once it has processed all the data, and and we can just go through some overview. So, but just before we do that, here you can see that it's telling me the number of splits, which is when I define this -m equals to -m1, it's just telling me to put in one file, right? It's also getting me the structure of the database, or the table, I mean, in the database. So I will be back in a bit. So we are back, and after this many seconds, it transferred 25 meg of data in this many records. If we want to check it, let's take a quick look. -del. Let's see if I got the right path in here. It's going really slow right now. That's just too much data. But this is what we get there, right? Now to export, it's almost the exact same thing. Let's come back here. Well, almost the exact same thing, with the exception that you're going to use an export command, and also your table, as you can see here, it must have, I'm sorry, your database, your RDBMS database must have the table already defined in there. It doesn't matter if it has data or not, as long as you don't, uh, uh, break the rule of constraints. If there's a primary key and it's trying to import something in the primary key table, in the primary key column, they're already there, it's going to break. If you try to export a string that is varchar 100 into a varchar 50, it's gonna break. But as long as you have the structure there, you're good. And so what we're gonna do, we're gonna come back here to my database. As you can see, we only have that one, right? And I already have a query here to create an export one. Okay, I'm gonna create an aquaculture export. So if I run this, what is the problem? Oh, I guess just don't like the where I am. Let me just put it here, because this is a little bit older. Let's say I've been playing with that for a little while and it's disconnected. Sorry, computer's really slow now. Let's come here, try to run that in here. Hopefully it works in here. Oh, not yet. Let me disconnect and connect again. Okay, let me run this. Alright, and if I go to my databases, I will probably see that guy in there. There's no data in it right now, and I don't care about this at this point, but this is my database, and I have this one. If I try to select, let's see what happens. Nothing there, but I have the structure. Okay, so now I can go ahead and export whatever I find here on this. I think I have this in here. Let me just, there you go. Okay, I have this in here. Let me open this up. Okay, so pretty much the same thing, except it's export database, the same table, aquaculture exports, name got a match, right? So if you actually want to run also that command again, let me do that, right, as a good practice. So if I do this list table, I should be able to see those two tables now. There you go. I see both of them, right? And this one is the one I just created. And now I'm going to use my export. If I can find it. So here it is, the table. And this is where I find the export directories, where I find in my HDFS. So when I run that, let's see what happens. And again, I will give a pause. This will take a few minutes, and once it's back, I will come back and we can see the results. Okay, we're back. So here it is, exported 212,000 and 229 records, the amount of data transferred and how long it took. Okay, if we go back to our database here, and if I do a let's do here select top 1000. Let's see, for that table it's going to show me that. Also if I do a select count from that, let's see if the math is actually right. But 21 22 29, so it worked. 21 22 29. So to finish, our time is already pretty tight here. Here are some of the common errors that I found during this process. No primary key, HDFS directory already there, multiple jars in the lib folder, trying to export CSV data from HDFS with misplaced commas. That's huge. And the way you really troubleshoot and find any of those mistakes, it's on the command, if you start having mistakes, you just should add this attribute in there, or this argument, double minus verbose, if I'm saying that right. And when it will start spelling you the mistake, or at least give you a better clue on where to find those mistakes and fix them. Okay, well, this is my presentation. I hope you enjoyed, and happy transferring. Thank you.